I'm second generation, so my mother's from Holland and my father's Japanese, and they met here in London. So me and my sister grew up here. My mother, previous to meeting my father, had spent like a lot of time in Japan dancing and studying there. And when she got a job here, it was in a Japanese department of a bank, and my father was there too, and they locked eyes across the office Christmas party, and that was the end of that. Well, obviously it is part of my heritage. I've never lived in Japan, so I guess in a big way I have a big disconnect, and when I do go, I don't really get seen as a Japanese person. They think I'm Latin American or from anywhere else, so they just think I'm white. But it is something that I want to learn more about. There's a definite curiosity there and an eagerness to reconnect with the culture, to learn more about the culture, even though I get a little bit rejected, but it makes me even hungry to want to learn more and understand more. And in instances where, for example, my grandmother, she can't speak English, and well, she's definitely not learning in a hurry. So in the pursuit of being able to communicate with her and have a relationship with her, I'm really hungry to learn more and more and more, so that I can, so I can experience that part of the family. It's being here in Europe, growing up in London, I've been so much more exposed to the Dutch side, visit them 3-4 times a year, and it's almost like a big mystery, a big question mark that I want to learn more about. So yeah, Japan, I guess it does mean a lot to me, and there's a definite yearning to be more part of it, but what I will find is unknown. Yes. I think in Japan there's very little social expectations for me in a way, just because I'm seen as an outsider, as a foreigner. So I get the English menu, and if I write my name, if I have to sign a register or something, and I write it in Japanese, people are very impressed. They're like, oh wow! And I'm like, I kind of don't want to tell them that I am half Japanese, because then they'll be like, you know, you should be able to do that anyway. So I'm like, okay, thanks. I think in terms of social expectations here, I don't think there's too many social expectations. I think particularly in London, because we're a city of so many mixed people, it's quite normal for people not to be too connected to their heritage, or their parents' heritage anyway. I think in London we kind of get this sense of just being a Londoner as opposed to being from any one particular country. I guess it also depends on what area you're from. So for example, in London, if you're from Southall, there's loads of Indians, so there's a big sense of Indian culture here. But for where I am in West London, because we're so mixed, there aren't any expectations really. So yeah, but what is really funny is when I go travelling with my mum and my sister, because there's a kind of gradation of white to Japanese. So my mum's this leggy blonde, and then there's me somewhere in the middle, and then there's my sister and my father. And my mum speaks Japanese like a native. Then there's me kind of in the middle, and my sister, who actually looks the most Japanese out of all, me and her, she can't speak a word. So I think for her it's harder, because people will speak to her with the expectation that she'll be able to talk back, and that can be a source of frustration for her. But for me, yeah, it's kind of easy sailing, because there's no expectations. I just surprise everyone and they're impressed, and then I have the shame of not being able to say why I can do it. Yeah. I can speak a bit, probably like a very, very bad 2-year-old. It's something that I'm working on. The reason I didn't learn Japanese as a child, my sister had hearing problems, and I don't know if it's a generation thing or it was that time, but my father in particular was like, well, I spoke Japanese only until school, and he kind of decided, I don't want to confuse the children. So my sister was learning to speak English a little bit late, and he just wanted to make it easier, so we only learn English, which I think is a shame, and if I had kids they'd speak so many languages. But so when I went to university, I was studying European languages, and I really thought it would be a good opportunity to learn Japanese. It was funny, Dutch wasn't on the menu, you can't do Dutch, which is a European language, but I ended up learning Japanese. So I've been studying that for quite a few years now, and I really enjoy it. It's a bit like a puzzle, and it's definitely coming slower, and I think the more I learn, the less I feel like I know. So it's a challenge, but it's something I definitely want to be able to do. I want to speak like a native. Well, I'm never going to sound like a native, I'll always have an English accent, but you know, I think it would be great to communicate with people on that level, because in general in Japan I feel that although people learn English when they go to high school and stuff, it's a source of a lot of people's kind of, they're a bit embarrassed almost, like it will actually stop people communicate that, oh, my English isn't good so I'm not going to try. And I want to be able to understand the culture better, and I want to be able to speak to people in a way that's not inhibited by a language barrier. So yes, I'm learning kanji from like a little kid's book. I can show you downstairs, and it's for little toddlers and young kids in primary school. It's all about unko, it's all about poo, because that's what they want to learn from, which seems fun. It's very popular right now in Japan, so if it's good enough for the Japanese kids, I think it's good enough for me. So yeah.